Alright, this is lesson 88, equivalent fractions. A couple things to be mindful of for this is remember that the root word for equivalent is equal. So when we're talking about equivalent fractions, we're just looking to make two different fractions equal. Now there are several ways, as you can see, 4 different ways that we can find equivalent fractions. I've highlighted the ones that I think will be the easiest for us to do, but just giving you some other options, whatever might be easiest for you is completely fine to use. But the first one would be drawing pictures, and you'll notice that I drew pictures here, but the downside to drawing pictures is you have to make sure that your pictures are equal in size, otherwise it'll be hard to tell. So these pictures that I drew took a little bit of time to do. The second step, and you'll notice this is highlighted, I recommend this, is use the manipulatives that we made in class, because then you don't have to worry about drawing anything. Everything's already equal sized and you can just take a look at those. So hopefully you still have those. Another way that you can do it is by simply multiplying the numerator and the denominator by the same number. We'll get into that in some future lessons. And then the last way is to simply reduce. Remember, to reduce, we need to list the factors out for both numbers, and then we're going to take the biggest factor that's the same, and we're going to divide by that. We call that the GCF. Okay, so again, to prove my point with drawing pictures, all of these fractions that we've drawn are equal, but if we actually wrote them out, we would see that this first one is 1/2, the second one is 2/4, the third one would be 3/6, and the last one up there would be 4/8. Now, different fractions, but if you look at the picture, you'll notice that they're all actually the same size. So that would be an example of drawing pictures if you want to go that route. Okay, but for most of this, I'm going to recommend either using the manipulatives or simply reducing the fractions to lowest terms. So when it says to compare, we've got 1/2 versus 2/4. 1/2 is already in lowest terms, so no need to reduce that, but 2/4 will reduce. So we're listing the factors for each. For 2 it's 1 and 2, for 4 it's 1, 2, and 4, and of course the greatest common factor between the two would be 2, so I'm going to divide numerator and denominator by 2. Of course 2 divided by 2 is going to give me 1, and 4 divided by 2 will give me 2. So we'll notice when we look at these fractions, 1/2 and 2/4 are the same because 2/4 is the same as 1/2. When we look at the next problem over, it says which two of these fractions are equivalent. Again, I would recommend either using manipulatives, and that would probably be really fast if you have them. Otherwise, you'll have to reduce everything to lowest terms to see what the answer would be. So 2/4, again, we've already done that here, so I'm just going to shortcut and use my same answer. 3/6, the factors for 3 would be 1 and 3. For 6, it would be 1, 2, 3, and 6. So the GCF, greatest common factor between the two, is going to be 3. So 3 divided by 3 is going to give me 1, and 6 divided by 3 is going to give me 2. And then 1/3 is already in lowest terms, so we'll notice 2/4 equals 1/2, 3/6 equals 1/2, and then we've got 1/3. So which two are equivalent? Based on what we see here, the answer is going to give us 2/4 and 3/6. We go down to this next problem here in the left hand corner. It says true or false, 1/3 equals 2/6. Well, to double check and see if that's true or not, we want to reduce to lowest terms, or we can again use our manipulatives to compare. 1/3 is in lowest terms, 2/6 we'll need to reduce. The factors for 2 are 1 and 2. The factors for 6, 1, 2, 3, and 6. And of course, when we look at those numbers, we see that the greatest common factor is 2. So 2 divided by 2 is going to give me 1. And 6 divided by 2 will give me 3. So we'll notice that 2/6 actually is 1/3. So the original problem where it said 1/3 equals 2/6 is true. Last two problems we're comparing. Again, either use the manipulatives, and that will make very quick work of this, or you can choose to reduce So both of these numbers are going to need to be reduced. The factors between 3 and 6, for 3 is going to be 1 and 3. For 6, 1, 2, 3, and 6. The GCF is 3. So I'm going to go down here just so that I have some space. 3 divided by 3 gives me 1. 6 divided by 3 gives me 2. For 4/8, I've got 1, 2, and 4. And then for 8, 1, 2, 4, and 8. The GCF there is going to be 4. So I divide numerator and denominator by 4. 4 divided by 4 gives me 1. Just to make it even, let's put them down here. And 8 divided by 4 gives me 2. So we'll notice these fractions are equal. The last one here, 1/2, is already reduced to lowest terms. So we just need to reduce 4/6. The greatest common factor between 4 and 6 is 2. So I'm going to divide numerator and denominator by that. 4 divided by 2 gives me 2. And 6 divided by 2 gives me 3. Now you may not be able to tell just by looking at these two fractions, and that's where the manipulatives would help a lot. Or feel free to draw them out and see which one's bigger. Now based on that, we would know by looking at the manipulatives or by drawing it out that 2/3 is larger. And there you have it. That is equivalent fractions. Hopefully that is helpful.